Before we dive into this story, if you love real, raw journeys of strength and survival, consider subscribing to stay connected with more tales like this, stories that often go unheard but deserve every voice. The day I turned 61, I had imagined something simple, an evening wrapped in warmth, just my son, his wife, a handful of close friends, sharing good food and soft laughter. No grand gestures, no blazing spotlights. Just a quiet moment to toast another year of holding myself together, of surviving without breaking apart. Instead, I found myself sitting across a candlelit table, swallowed by silence that felt heavier than any words could be. My only child, the person I trusted most, declared ownership over something that had never belonged to him. Publicly. Without a single question asked. The night had started with promise. The restaurant was one of those sleek, fashionable spots, exposed brick walls, Edison bulbs hanging low, servers calling you boss with a smirk that felt rehearsed. I barely had a chance to settle into my seat when Amelia, his wife, slid a gift bag across the table like a magician revealing her trick. Inside, cushioned with tissue paper fluffed like a delicate plume, was a baby onesie with the words, "Best Grandma Ever." She beamed at me with manicured hands fluttering as she spoke. "We figured it was time to start planning the nursery, Mom." Her eyes sparkled with forced sweetness. Daniel, my son, nodded beside her, calm and almost too composed. "Yeah, especially since we'll have more space soon." I blinked, confused. More space? Leaning closer, Amelia whispered conspiratorially, "We're so grateful you agreed to this, Mom. Honestly, not every mother would be so generous." The table fell silent. I frowned, my mind racing, trying to catch up. What exactly had I agreed to? Before I could speak, Daniel stood up, tapping his spoon on his wineglass to command attention. "Can I have everyone's attention for a moment?" His voice lifted just enough to silence the room, even making the servers pause. "Tonight isn't only about celebrating my amazing mom's birthday. It's about a big change for our family." He smiled at me, too wide, too certain. "We're moving into Mom's apartment," Amelia announced, phone already recording. "It just makes sense. She doesn't need all that space anymore, and we're starting a family. It's truly a gift, so generous." Glasses clinked around me, but I sat frozen, my fork dangling limply, untouched. His smile pinned me in place. "Right, Mom?" The air tightened, snapping like a trap closing shut. Amelia's camera stayed locked on me, waiting, everyone's eyes fixed on my face, searching for a reaction. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because panic clenched my throat and my brain short-circuited. It felt like being shoved on stage in a play I never auditioned for. I forced a smile, took a sip of wine, and prayed for the moment to pass. But it didn't. The conversation moved forward without me, while inside, my blood turned to ice. The food tasted like cardboard, the room spun slowly, a theater of betrayal. Amelia launched into plans, redecorating the apartment, picking paint colors, deciding where the crib would go, even mocking the curtains she called old lady drapes. "Of course, you can still visit," she said sweetly. "You can keep your plants on the balcony if you want." Daniel added, "No pressure. We'll give you plenty of time to move out." They hadn't asked. They hadn't waited for me. They'd announced, declared, to my friends and everyone there that my home, the sanctuary I'd shared with my late husband for 3 decades, was now their nursery. Halfway through dessert, I excused myself, mumbling something about not feeling well. Daniel shot me a look, accusing me silently of drama, but I simply shook my head. I walked out, the heels I hadn't worn in years biting into my feet until blisters bloomed. My chest burned with each step, but it was the only way to silence the screams inside my head. When I returned home, the apartment felt foreign, invaded. I locked the door and checked it again and again. The voices from dinner echoed in my mind, Amelia laughing about my curtains, Daniel saying I didn't need the space. The photographs of my husband, once comforting, now stared back like warnings etched in glass. I sat at my kitchen table, hands flat on the surface, frozen in place for nearly an hour. When I moved, I opened a drawer I hadn't touched in months, my husband's files, old legal documents, wills, emergency contacts. Among them, I found something I'd forgotten, a power of attorney form Daniel's name was on. Signed 2 years ago, during a hospital stay when I had pneumonia. My stomach dropped. That night, I texted my lawyer. Is this still valid? The reply came early morning, if you haven't revoked it, yes. We need to talk. That's when it hit me. Daniel wasn't guessing. He wasn't asking. He was executing. I didn't sleep. Not a second. I kept replaying his face as he clinked that glass, announcing everything with no hesitation, only expectation, like I was a check to be cashed. Wrapped in my robe, staring at nothing, Amelia's words echoed, "We're so grateful you agreed." I never agreed. Not with words. Not with a look. But I let it happen. And that was my mistake. The morning brought a flood of evidence I wasn't prepared for. Amelia posted videos, slow pans of my living room set to soft acoustic music, captions claiming, "The beginning of our family's next chapter." Saying goodbye to Grandma's place, hello to our new home. Comments poured in, "So sweet of her to pass it down, she must be so proud." Daniel had sent me a transition plan, a list of everything they wanted moved, dates, and a Pinterest board titled Neutral Nursery Aesthetic filled with photos of my bedroom stripped bare, reduced to a crib and rocking chair. I hadn't even responded to dinner. I hadn't said yes. But they had. Before 9 a.m., I called my lawyer. Her tone was sharp, urgent. "You never revoked this," she said, flipping through papers. "Technically, Daniel can make decisions on your behalf if you're deemed medically unable. He could challenge you if a doctor claimed memory decline or confusion. It's rare, but it happens, especially in family disputes." My stomach clenched. She looked at me over her glasses. "We need to revoke this now. Be careful what you say and sign. Everything must go through me. Understand?" I nodded, voice caught. At home, my key didn't work on the front gate. For 2 minutes, I jiggled, twisted, panicked, before realizing the lock was just stiff from the cold. A moment of terror swept over me. Had they changed the locks? I didn't cook. I didn't clean. I sat at the table, writing a list, every cent I'd paid in Daniel's adult life. His college tuition when his scholarship disappeared. The wedding flowers and half the catering I covered. The emergency loan for IVF treatments 2 years ago, treatments they never even tried. They just said baby, knowing it would crack me. Then, I walked into my bedroom and pulled down an old photo album from the closet. Daniel in his Little League uniform. Amelia at their engagement party, smiling with perfect teeth. Me and my husband holding champagne flutes, right there in this very apartment. I closed the book, pulled up my phone, and texted Daniel. "We need to talk." Not through announcements or Pinterest boards. For hours passed. His reply was a single thumbs-up emoji. That's when I knew. I was no longer his mother. I was an obstacle. A locked door. A name on a deed he had to move. And he wasn't asking again. 3 days after that uneasy dinner, something slid silently beneath my apartment door while I was in the shower. No knock, no bell, just the soft scrape of paper against tile. I almost slipped stepping out on wet feet, the envelope catching me off guard. Inside, a document titled Preliminary Transfer Agreement, Residential Property lay waiting. My name was already printed on it, along with Daniel's and Amelia's. Only the signature line for me remained blank. Tucked inside was a note, typed, cold, and signed. Daniel's voice, clearly filtered through someone else's fingers. "No rush. Just need this signed by Friday to move forward with bank approvals. Thanks again, Mom." Bank approvals. That phrase hit me like a hammer. They weren't just planning anymore, they were already treating my home like collateral, like a currency to be traded. I sat down at the edge of the bathtub, paper trembling in my hand. Immediately, I called my lawyer. Within minutes, her voice came firm and steady. He's moving forward under the assumption this is already his. If you sign that, it's over. Don't even leave it unattended. Shred it. I told her he'd mailed it. That means he's creating a paper trail, making it look like you're cooperating willingly. Don't respond. Don't engage in writing. That night, I pulled open the filing cabinet again, determined to understand every scrap tied to my name. And there it was. A health directive packet from 2 years ago, the same hospital stay when I'd battled pneumonia. Beneath the boilerplate forms, buried deep, lay a limited authority designation. Daniel was named my proxy for financial decisions if I became incapacitated. I remembered now, him sitting by my bedside, hooked up to IVs, gently coaxing, "Just sign these so I can help with the insurance." I hadn't read them. I just scribbled my name to get him off my back. My lawyer confirmed it later that night. If a doctor signs off that you're forgetful or confused, they could try to challenge your capacity. It's rare, but enough to freeze you in court. And if you've accidentally agreed to something by email or text without knowing, they'll use that as consent. I sat motionless, replaying the dinner, Amelia's forced smile as she filmed me. Daniel's choice of words, past tense, as if I'd already consented. It wasn't a mistake. It was a rehearsed narrative, crafted behind my back. And I had let it happen. The next morning, I took action. Freezing my credit. Securing my bank accounts. Revoking every power Daniel held. I removed him from my emergency contacts. Changed passwords on every financial app. Started keeping meticulous records, every message, every interaction, screenshot after screenshot. I didn't reply to his texts anymore, but I saved them all. Later that day, I called the building manager, who had accessed the security gate the night before. He hesitated. "Daniel used your spare key," he said finally. "He was checking on you." I hadn't asked him to. I hadn't been hurt. I hadn't known he still had a spare. I asked if the lock could be changed. He said yes, but only after a formal request. So I filed one that night. I moved all my important papers into a metal lockbox and hid it under my bed. I stopped drinking wine with dinner. Stopped taking sleeping pills. I needed my mind sharp. Every interaction with Daniel and Amelia went into a journal. I even wrote a fake grocery list one night, a timestamp in my handwriting. I wasn't paranoid. I was hunted. They weren't waiting for me to hand over the keys. They were building a case to take everything, without my consent. 2 days later, the doorbell rang. I peeked through the peephole. Amelia stood there, smiling, sugar-sweet as always, holding a white gift bag and a cup of iced coffee with my name clumsily written on it. I cracked the door open just enough. "Just thought I'd stop by," she said, voice dripping with false kindness. "Wanted to check on you, and I brought your favorite hazelnut cream. Extra ice." She tried to hand me the drink. I didn't move. "You didn't text first," I said flatly. She laughed, brushing it off. "I figured it'd be nice to pop in," she said. "You've been quiet." I let her stand there, hoping silence would make her leave. Instead, she pushed the gift bag toward me. "Vitamins," she said, eyes wide, like a child sharing a secret. "Prenatals. We're hoping." "But you already knew that." I blinked. "You're pregnant," I whispered. She placed a hand dramatically on her stomach, as if she was already showing. "Just a few weeks," she added. We weren't going to say anything, but after dinner, it felt like a sign. She wasn't pregnant. I knew it the moment the words left her mouth. Her eyes were too sharp, too eager. Later, when she finally stepped inside, I caught her slipping her purse onto the kitchen counter. I waited. When she went to the bathroom, I peeked inside. Inside her purse, copies of my apartment floor plans, labeled with new furniture placements. A Zillow estimate of my home's current value, printed and folded like a secret. She was staging the place. They hadn't moved in yet. They were flipping it in their minds. Maybe even to someone else. I snapped a photo of the documents, slipped the folder back, and sat down on the couch. When Amelia re-emerged, I asked, "Do you want to stay for dinner?" She looked shocked, then smiled. "Sure. That'd be nice. Should I call Daniel?" "No, just us." I served frozen pasta and stale wine. Let her get comfortable. Watched her leave around 8, still talking color palettes and baby names. Completely unaware I'd seen everything in her bag. I locked the door behind her and pushed my heavy sewing machine in front of it. I wasn't scared. I was focused. I opened my phone. Scrolled through screenshots. Created a new folder, proof. This wasn't family. This was fraud. In the days that followed, I woke before dawn, not to rest but to prepare. I wasn't packing boxes. I was packing knowledge, information to protect myself. My old friend, Evelyn, a retired real estate agent who'd left the city for quiet country life, answered my call before I could finish the first sentence. "Talk to me," she said simply. I told her everything, from that birthday dinner's crushing betrayal to Amelia's fake pregnancy, the documents I found hidden in her purse, the story they were spinning like a tangled web. She listened, no interruptions, just quiet understanding. Then she said, "You need to get out before they realize you've caught on." Evelyn offered to help me sell my apartment discreetly, no listings, no online photos, just word of mouth through her trusted network of serious buyers. "You'll get less money," she warned, "but it keeps them from interfering or contesting before the sale closes." I agreed immediately. For 3 days, I played the part they expected. I texted Daniel short, polite replies. I liked Amelia's nursery photos on Instagram. I posted pictures of my dinners, captions about the comfort of home cooking. I wanted them to believe I was soft, docile, still under their control. But behind the scenes, I was unraveling their entire plan. On the 4th day, Amelia sent me a video. She sat on my living room couch, her voice full of fake warmth. The caption read, "Soon to be ours, but forever Grandma's legacy." It had 2,000 views. I didn't cry. I took a screenshot and saved it, proof. That night, I left one subtle clue. An empty suitcase, placed carefully in the hallway where Amelia would see it. She'd think I was packing for a trip. She'd tell Daniel. They'd believe they had time. They didn't. I was leaving before the week was out. By the time they realized, the keys would be in someone else's hands. The day it happened was Tuesday. Late afternoon. I had just finished a call with the title company. The sale would close in 72 hours. All cash. No contingencies. Just as Evelyn had arranged. The knock came, sharp, insistent. Not polite. I didn't answer. I stood in the hallway, arms crossed, lights off. The knocking continued. Then a voice, Daniel's. "Mom, open the door." I stayed silent. I heard the key trying the lock. Failing. Jiggling. Pausing. A heavier knock. "Mom, I need to talk to you." I waited. Eventually, he stopped. Then spoke through the door. We found out about the realtor. Tone shifting. "Iris called someone we know. You're selling the place. Are you serious?" Silence. "You're sabotaging your own family," he said quietly. More silence. Then, his voice dropped lower. "Open this door and talk like an adult. I swear I'll do what I have to do legally." He left. But not empty-handed. An envelope was shoved through the doorframe, almost identical to the first. Inside was a formal notice. A request for transitional occupancy review. Signed by a legal assistant from a firm I didn't recognize. One section highlighted. Pending potential medical guardianship claim. I placed the paper on the table. Called my lawyer. She answered before the second ring. I read the sentence aloud. She sighed. "They're escalating. Trying to challenge your competency. They're not just pushing, they're building a case." That night, I sat at the kitchen table. Lockbox open. Documents organized. Files copied. I recorded myself reading a summary of every financial decision to date. With timestamps. Emailed it to a secure folder my lawyer accessed. I attached every transaction, every screenshot, every text. Narrated clearly, without hesitation, with dates and references. Included the sale agreement, purchase offer on the cabin, and inspection report. It was exhausting. But it had to be airtight. I wasn't just protecting my assets. I was protecting my mind. Because once someone calls you forgetful, no one listens to what you remember. The next day, Amelia showed up alone. No knock this time. She stood yelling loud enough for neighbors to peek through blinds. "We're trying to grow our family, and you're being cruel. You said we'd have a home. You said we were welcome." She pulled out her phone. I saw the red recording light blinking. She was filming. I opened the door just enough to be seen, not heard. I said one word. "Leave." Her video caught that moment, her crying, me looking cold. That night, it went viral. Titled, "When Family Betrays You, a Pregnancy Without a Home." It got over 4,000 likes in hours. Comments called me names. A boomer hoarder. Unworthy of grandchildren. I screenshotted everything. Saved every post. Sent it all to my lawyer. The next day, Daniel texted. "If you want to avoid court, sign the attached, and we'll forget all this." It was a PDF, a transfer of deed agreement. Amelia and Daniel had signed it. My name was blank. I forwarded it unopened. Then texted Daniel. "You'll be served within the week. Do not contact me again." I turned my phone off at sunset. By then, my bags were packed. Keys ready. A note left for the buyers. "Everything here is yours now, except the silence I'm taking with me." I left at 4:35 a.m. Just before the sky changed. The streets quiet. Only the sound of my suitcase rolling over cracked pavement. The apartment I'd called home for 32 years. I didn't look back. Evelyn met me 2 towns over with coffee and a smile that said everything she couldn't speak. The cabin was 4 hours away. Tucked near a lake, surrounded by trees and silence. When I arrived, I didn't unpack. I stood in the empty kitchen. Exhaled. So deeply, it felt like breathing for the first time in months. I didn't check my phone. I knew what was waiting. And I was right. 3 days later, 37 missed calls. 19 voicemails. More than 60 texts. Mostly Daniel. Some Amelia. Others from unknown numbers. Group texts from cousins, family friends, even my own sister. Screenshots Amelia had sent. Videos of me kicking her out. Daniel's message was long. He said I'd abandoned them. Right before their baby came. That I'd upended their home. Called me a coward. The baby lie lingered. But worse, People believed it. I didn't reply. But I read everything. The disappointment stung like cold water. People who'd shared holidays with me, helped me through loss, now said, "I hope you come to your senses. Family should stick together." Daniel wasn't just rewriting history. He was casting himself as the victim. Then, something unexpected happened. My niece, Claire. She never liked Amelia. Texted me privately. "Aunt Louise, I don't buy any of this. You okay?" I replied, "Yes." Safe and done. She sent a heart emoji. "Call me if you need backup." I didn't cry. But I felt it. The quiet loyalty. Not everyone was fooled. The next day, my lawyer called. Sale closed. Funds transferred. Deed filed. My apartment no longer mine. Never Daniel's. She warned. Asterisk, they won't risk filing guardianship now. You outmaneuvered them. Social narratives won't hold in court. But update your will immediately. Asterisk. I had already. Weeks ago. Everything now belonged to a community trust. Supporting older women escaping financial and emotional abuse. My cabin. My savings. Even a small life insurance policy I'd kept for years. Daniel and Amelia were cut out. Legally barred from contesting. That evening, I emailed my lawyer the final signed copy. Poured myself a glass of water. Sat on the porch of my cabin. Watched the sun slip behind the trees. It was quiet. Not lonely. Clean. Wide open. My phone buzzed one last time. Daniel. No greeting. No apology. Just. If Dad could see you now, he'd be disgusted. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what Dad would say. If he were alive, he'd say I should have done it sooner. It started with a package. No return address. No note. Just a slim white box left outside the cabin's front door. Wrapped in tissue and ribbon. Like a peace offering. Inside was a framed sonogram photo. And a card. "Can we start over?" A&D. The image looked real. At first glance. But I'd seen it before. Amelia had posted the same stock sonogram months ago. As a vision board placeholder. They printed a fake. Mailed it. Framed it. I set it on the counter. Without touching again. 2 days later, an email arrived. Subject, dinner. Message. Asterisk, will be in your area this weekend. Let's just talk. No pressure. Just family. Asterisk. I didn't respond. Saturday night came. Headlights on the gravel road. 6:40 p.m. Sun slipping behind the trees. I watched from the kitchen window. A silver SUV parked. Amelia in heels. Daniel in his old blazer. Holding a bottle of wine. I didn't open the door. They knocked. Softly at first. Then harder. "Mom," Daniel called. "We just want to talk. We drove all this way." I stood in darkness. Hands resting on the chair back. Silent. Amelia's voice cracked, false emotion dripping. Asterisk, you're shutting out your grandchild. Is that what you want? Asterisk. I said nothing. They stayed for 22 minutes. I timed it. Eventually, they left. Leaving the wine bottle on the doorstep. The label read, "Forgiveness. Pinot Noir." I poured it down the drain. That night, Daniel sent one last message. Asterisk, you win. Hope it was worth losing your family. Asterisk. I didn't reply. I screenshotted it. Saved it. Deleted his contact. For good. The next morning, I met my new neighbor, Clara. She moved here after divorcing her husband of 40 years. Started a small soap business in her garage. She laughed when I told her about the fake sonogram. People get bold when money's involved, she said. But you didn't give them what they wanted. That makes you dangerous to them. I nodded. Dangerous felt new. It felt right. That week, I bought a garden bed. Planted thyme and mint. Joined the local co-op. Friday came. An unknown number called. I let it go to voicemail. Curiosity won. I hit play. Hi Mary, it's me. I know things got messy. We're still hoping to keep a door open for the baby. Please call. I deleted the message. Because the only door that mattered was the one they would never walk through again. It wasn't dramatic. No angry relatives. No gasps. Just a quiet meeting over black coffee. At my lawyer's office. On a cloudy Thursday morning. The final signature sealed what I'd always known. Daniel and Amelia were officially cut out. No fallback. No chance for reconsideration. Just a clean, binding document. Every asset I owned. From the cabin to my savings. Even the silver photo frame on my nightstand. Now belonged to a community endowment. In my husband's name. Supporting older women escaping abuse. My lawyer, Annette, handed me the hard copy. Checked each page twice. It's done, she said. If they challenge it, they'll lose. The paper trail is unbreakable. Asterisk. I nodded. Took the folder. Felt its weight. Like armor. 2 days later, Claire called. I think Daniel knows, she said. He's posting those passive-aggressive quotes again. Betrayal always comes from those closest to you. Kind of stuff. Amelia changed her Instagram bio. Chosen family only. I laughed for the first time in weeks. Short. Hard. Let them talk, I said. They lost the right to my name when they tried to steal it. Asterisk. A week later, a letter arrived. From the Charities Board. Confirming the account was live. Under the name The Quiet Exit Fund. With my first deposit allocated. I reread the paperwork twice. Tucked it carefully into the cabinet beside my teacups. That night, I opened a bottle of sparkling water. Sat outside. The breeze off the lake cooling my skin. I scrolled through photos of my old apartment. Now someone else's home. Young. Simple. Normal. No nursery plans. No manipulations. Just smiles. And in the background, the old bookshelf my husband built. Still standing. They hadn't torn it down. They placed plants on it. It felt like closure. My phone buzzed once more. An unknown number. I didn't flinch. Didn't look. Powered it off. Slid it into a drawer. I didn't need it anymore. Because this life I'd built. No audience. No performance. No applause from those who helped break me. It was finally mine. The cabin was quiet. And so was I. For the first time in years. That silence didn't feel empty. It felt like peace. Permanent. Final. Exactly what I wanted. Exactly what no one else could take. If this story moved you, please subscribe. Because sometimes the loudest battles are fought in silence, and the strongest victories come without a fight.